Okay, so we're all right. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here on this sunny day. I sent you the agenda and I thought we would work through that. And if there are additional things that you would like to bring up, please feel free to do that either as we go along or near the end, whatever. We have the April workshop, which is the budget workshop, as many of you know. And I thought it would be a good idea to have a December workshop, which is this one, and have it as part of the board's work so that we could discuss what we wanted to do for the following year, kind of lay out our plans, talk about policies, talk about what we feel the direction the board should be in. And also this year, of course, we'll be thinking about our new president. So does that seem like a good idea to have those two workshops for the board?
Yes.
Anybody doesn't want to do that? Okay. I mean, obviously, if we need additional meetings, we will do that. Okay. So we'll make sure that that's on the calendar. I was talking with Dan, and I was telling him that John Bartolotta is going to be leaving the board. He was asked to be chair or president, I don't know what the designation is, of the Country Club of Rochester. So of course he's going to ask us all to lunch. That's part of the price he has to pay. And Dan has said graciously that he would take over the nominating committee. This leads me to the next part here. We don't really have a term for the chair and the vice chair. It's sort of been however long you want to stay in that position, you stay or not. And my feeling is that really doesn't feel like the best way to handle this situation. So I am proposing to all of you that what we do is we have a term of 2 years, and then if the person would like to stay, person meaning chair and or vice chair, would be able to stay for another 2 years. Does that seem like a reasonable way to handle this situation? It seems like most boards handle things like this.
I think it is. The only concern that we had in the past is that when you have a number of people in the board, and when you talk about chair and vice chair, everybody looks the other way because, well, yeah, it's like I don't want to be, doing that.
Okay,
so
well, barring
case,
that,
I mean, somebody nominates you because nobody else wants to do it, and would you accept? Oh, okay.
Well,
I don't have any problem with terms. No,
right.
That's the history that we had.
Well, I think one of the things that we will be thinking about is that, and that brings me to the next part of this, is that my term will be up in August. That will be 4 years, 4 wonderful years. And, and so as many of you know, that's quite exciting. And what I want to do is ask all of you that if you're interested in being chair, that you call me and talk to me about it. And then we would give your name to Dan, either for the chair and or the vice chair. So why don't you think about it? If you have questions you want to ask me about, thoughts, that would be great too, whatever. But we will have all of this put together for the August meeting. So whoever takes over would take over. The first meeting would be at the October meeting of 21.
Now,
okay.
It will be, I believe, fairly difficult to find a chair, and applaud to you for everything you have done. You have become practically, and I don't mean it wrong, an employee of the school where you devote so much time and you have come up with so many different things that to follow your lead may not be an easy task for somebody else who has a job, I mean, a paying job or other, things to do to devote, like you do, so much time to the school. That's something that whoever wants, to be chair and follow your steps, it's going to be a tremendous leap.
Well, let me just speak to that. I think that when I have been chair during this time, there have been several extenuating circumstances, as all of you know, one of which was the search that obviously took a lot of time. What we'll have in place is we will have our new president. As a board, we will know what we want to do as far as all of that is concerned. And secondly, it's not going to be the same because things at the college are much better. We don't have to work out a lot of any organizational problems. And so it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the time that I devoted. It's going to be much, much less. So Grace, I appreciate your saying that, but I don't think I don't think whoever it is coming into the same situation. Carla?
So two things. One is, I think it's fine to call to see if there's any interest. If there isn't, I think we'd want to know if you would reconsider at least staying another term and then implementing sort of the term limit, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The second thing is, do we have bylaws? We have bylaws, right?
We have bylaws.
Do they address the terms of office?
No, they do not.
Okay, we should probably.
Yes, we should probably do that. Yeah, I agree, Carla. I just wanted to talk about it.
Got it. Okay.
Thing. I am in a position right now where I can't stay on. My husband has a metastatic cancer, and he is going through, has been going through, and still is this week, in fact, a special kind of radiation, not the typical kind. It's an injected radiation. So I really need to be able to devote more of my time to supporting him in all of this, because it's been going on for a long time, but it's becoming more intense. So I'm not going to be able to continue on as the chair. And I mean, that's my situation. But I also think that this is a very, very good time for someone else to take over, because it's a good transition. I've sort of been one kind of chair. I think maybe as we go into this new situation, it might be good to have a different kind of chair, someone who sees things in a different way, a fresh way. And so I'm hoping that we as a board can move in that direction. Okay, good. Okay, so I mean, it's only December now, so there's time to think about all this.
Yeah, it's only December, the longest year.
I know. The next thing is secretary is now part of the Board of Trustees yearly nominations. We've had the secretary be part of the nominations. We're not going to do that anymore because the secretary, I should say Linda Hall, because that's the person we're talking about, has been signing certain documents. And we've been talking about it with Kate Douglas, with Linda, me, and it really should be a board member who signs these documents. And we're thinking that it should be the vice chair, because the chair signs a lot, the travel stuff and all of that, and we'll have the vice chair. Linda, could you just give us an example of one of those documents?
I'm really not sure what you're talking about. Sorry, Barbara.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I don't know if Kate mentioned something to you or whatever. The only documents that I sign is if mostly finance. If someone comes to me asking for a formal resolution, so they need, so what I do is I take the resolution out of the board, and as it's numbered, I put it kind of in a memo, just kind of certifying that that's what was passed at the board meeting. That's the only document I can think of that I really signed.
I thought you had stated to me that there were some things that you were signing that you were not comfortable about. Maybe I misunderstood that.
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, well, if we, the thing is, we don't need to have Linda, we don't need to nominate her. This is her job. So we don't have to go through the nominations.
Yeah,
And then if there are, sorry.
I think Kate had mentioned that there could be some confusion because I'm named the secretary, and there normally is a secretary to the board,
Right,
which
right.
is a voting member of the board. So I think, you know, she just wants to make sure that I think that there's no confusion between those titles.
Yeah, and when we need to, and then if there are some documents that need to be signed that the chair doesn't sign, we can have the vice chair sign. Okay, so what we're doing is we're trying to tighten up the rules here so that they're not so, you know, shake your hand and this is the way we're doing it. Does this sound okay so far? All right, good. The next one is a list for new Board of Trustees. This is a continuing problem, not to find people, but to get people through and whatnot because of the state, not so much with the county. But I would really appreciate it if, as you're going along, and you have some people whom you think would be terrific, we can have them as part of a list of people we can ask. Two of the people who were on the search committee, Danielle Lyman-Torres and Corinda Crosdale, are both MCC grads and would be terrific board members. They were both amazingly good. So they would be state people, but we need some more county people. And we also want to be thinking about equity as we're trying to as we put the board together. Make sure that our board reflects the students whom we serve. Okay, so just to keep that in mind. Another part, if you want to talk about anything, you know, let me know. The executive session has not been part of the board meeting in the last probably half year or so. And my feeling is, and I hope that you feel the same way, is that it feels like we get a lot more work done if we have an executive session like we've been doing at 8 in the morning. I'm sorry, Carla. That where and it's an hour and that's what we do. When it's part of the board meeting, I think it just seems to take so much more out of us as people at the end of the day. And I think also takes away from the board meeting. So how do you feel about that? I mean, we're not going to have lots of these, but we will have some of them. Do you feel that that would be an okay way to proceed? Benny's shaking his head. Anyone feel that that's not appropriate?
You mean?
No, I mean, I think it depends on, I think it's fine. I think it just might depend on how complicated it might be to schedule an extra meeting. Like, it depends on what the topic is and how important it is to schedule an extra meeting. I mean, while we're virtual, it's really easy, right?
Right.
Well, when we go back to in-person meetings, it was very easy to just go into executive session, to go in the next room and then come back. So,
but Linda, we can do executive sessions in Zoom, right? Even when we go back to face-to-face?
Yeah, my understanding is as long as everyone is we're able to see each other, so we're actually on video, that it's you know, a formal board meeting.
So I was thinking, in response to what you're saying, I totally agree that if we have it at 8 in the morning, we can just do it on Zoom. Does that seem reasonable?
It's fine, depending on the day. I mean, in my case, I'm 2 days a week, I'm teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm completely out. I cannot meet at 8 o'clock, either Wednesdays or Fridays, because I'm teaching.
Well,
So,
we can work around people's needs, or we can do it in the late afternoon, or whatever. I mean, those sorts of details we can certainly work out. I'm just asking about the larger sense of having an executive meeting. I mean, I remembered when we were doing it with the board meeting. Board meetings were 3.5 hours, and it was a lot for people. And I think it's very important that when we have an executive meeting, we all can kind of just key in on what we need to do and then go for it.
Another thing to think about is a little bit of process here. And I certainly don't mean to be a pain in the neck about any of this, but I believe you may actually have to have a regular meeting that's properly noticed and established, and then have actually have a motion to go into executive session.
Yes, you do.
So we just need to keep that in mind. As long as the same rules about appearing by video apply to a regular meeting as executive session, I think we'd be okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, we absolutely know that. Now, this meeting is just the workshop. So
Right.
you know, we're just discussing these issues. We're not doing any voting, but
Yep.
yeah, but yes, absolutely, Dan. I mean, that has to be part of it. Yeah. Okay. Then the last couple of things, let me back up with the presidential search. The candidate is going to speak with the chancellor, we hope, Thursday or Friday of this week, or Wednesday or Thursday of this week. There might be a Suny Board of Trustees meeting in December. It is, if it comes to pass, it's a budget meeting. And I have begged and pleaded for just a few minutes for them to look at our candidate and okay the candidate in December. I really have. I thought, please don't make us wait all this time, but we'll see how that goes. We're going to do everything we can to get our candidate ready for that. And if we can slip it in, we're going to do it. So that's where we are with that.
Barbara, will that be virtually or will it be in person with the?
It'll be virtual. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll all be virtual. Yeah. Because of course, you know, all their meetings are virtual now, the Suny Board of Trustees.
Okay.
We were waiting for that. And what, the other thing is that I've been working on the contract with Kristen and also with Mike Quinn, who's the controller. We've gone back and forth a bit with the candidate, and tomorrow we're sort of in the final throes of what we feel is probably going to work out. We're really coming together. And what I would like to do is to have a meeting, if it depends on when the when Suny works out all of this stuff, but about the contract. It depends on how things are playing out, but we'll either do that sometime in December or the beginning of January. So we'll need an executive session. As Dan was saying, we'll have to go through that whole bit. And we'll sit and we'll look at the contract and see how we feel about it. What we've done basically is the following. We took out we looked at Cress's contract, and we took out all of the escalation clauses, which of course are the ones that just burgeon out of control. And we went through and just looked at the things that we thought were necessary, and also what the candidate thought was necessary. And we came to some kinds of conclusions about that. It is a contract so far that the controller feels is very fair and is one that the college can support financially. Obviously, there will be nothing that will be done without the boards looking at it and discussing it. What I'm going to do once she looks at it once more, is that I will set up a meeting. I will send you each the contract we will send it to you via board pack because that's secured. Grace, you don't use board pack, so we will we'll drop that off at your house.
Okay.
So it will you know, we won't worry about anybody looking at it. I think that's the path we're going to take.
Now,
How does
I have
that
a
sound?
question.
Oh, yeah, please.
I don't know much about this lady. Is she married? Does she have children?
We have to remember we're in public session right now.
Okay.
I will be glad to answer that question. Maybe if you call me.
Okay, no, because I know we have to make a number of arrangements before, as you know.
No,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, don't be sorry. That's okay. It's hard. It doesn't seem like there's a world outside of this screen. Other questions about the contract, other concerns that you'd like to bring up with me right now? Okay.
Barbara, when does it look like it'll be effective? Because if Suny doesn't meet this month, it'll be again, what, January?
Mm-hmm. It would be at the end of January.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the end of January, and it would, and that's part of what we'll work out.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, all of that, and it's all workable. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Good. Other questions, other concerns? Okay. So we'll have to meet about the contract, and I'll make sure that you, as I said, you will all get a copy, and that will be an executive session, so you can ask any kinds of questions and talk in any sort of way. Okay. Now, the last thing is the board self-assessment survey. That seems like a while ago. We've had a lot of interesting times since then. And I just wanted to go over some of the things that were on that board self-assessment. One of the things was that the board felt that not everybody on the board felt that there was enough planning for the future of the college, that we didn't get together and plan for the future of the college. One of the things that's why I thought we would meet in December and do that sort of thing and talk to each other. Let's plan on what the next year is. Let's think about what we want to do as far as the next year goes. What policies are going to be coming up, what else is happening, what we feel our role is, and how we feel we want to go about our role as trustees. So that's one of the things that I think that we are definitely doing. Some people felt that they weren't prepared for board meetings. What's your feeling about that? Do you feel you're prepared for board meetings? What kind of preparation don't you have that you would like, if any?
I think the comment, and I may be one of the persons that made the comment, is that I felt that some people came to the meetings and it seemed like it was the first time that they saw the material that we had been, receiving, and in my estimation, they were not really prepared for the meeting.
Okay.
Not everybody, but in some instances, I think that they were not prepared.
Okay. Other comments about this, about your own feelings about being adequately prepared or not? Are there things that I can do as chair that would help you be more prepared for a meeting?
I think we're given a lot of information and a lot of time to review the information. So I kind of think it's on us if we're not prepared. I've never come to a board meeting and been you know, hitting the head with something that I wasn't expecting. So,
Right.
yeah. And then in terms of planning, planning is a great idea, but I don't think we can plan the Board of Trustees on its own without the president, right? I think that,
Right.
and without the administration of the college, we could, because we could make a big plan and go off on our own, but that might not be the trend that we need to be planning about. So,
well, that's why I thought we would talk about the idea of it, and then we would carry it out.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's worth it. And I think that, you know, there's just so much happening and so much coming at us at once.
Yeah.
And next year is going to be critical with, you know, a new president and, you know, maybe a whole new way to look at how we go to college or what we look like. And so I think it's critical that we're planning and that we're prepared and we have, you know, we make sure that we have the information we need to do those kinds of plans.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to reiterate that if you, at any point, if you don't feel as if you have enough information, or you want to get together and talk about it or whatever have you, that's fine. That really is fine outside of the meeting. Okay, good. Another problem was policy roles. I think one of the things we haven't been the best at is looking at the policies, and because we usually get it and then we read it once and then we read it again. I think possibly some background on these policies would be good. Every 3 years we go through and we redo we look at policy, whatever the policies are. So we're constantly reevaluating them. And that used to be done in one spot. Now it's done in another with the reorganization, you know, where it's finding out the person who's in charge here. So we'll be talking more about that as we go along, the policies, which policies, and I can also make an effort to have more background on some of these policies and the debates as well. So that was another one. And that the most problematic was community relations. And that's the one I wanted to talk to you about. What's your sense of the board and community relations?
Well, we are, I believe most of us have another life outside the college, and we interface with a number of people in the community. And of course, we do it on behalf of MCC, doing recruitment and doing a number of other things. I believe that all of us are invested in, you know,
oh yes,
the best for the school, and we keep good relationships with, or try to, with the city, with the county, with the politicians, with the heads of other organizations in town. I don't know. I guess that's probably what most of us are doing.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking these questions, of course, is that as I looked over the responses, these were the areas that people seem to have concerns about. And I want to make sure that we as a group don't just look at that and say, oh, okay, I'm sorry about your concerns. But I wanted to make sure that everyone got a chance to talk about concerns in general about the board and maybe specifically as well. Are there other things that as we talk about the board, you feel that we need to do in a better way?
Barbara, if I could, I think one area is to expand this assessment to the different stakeholders at the college, so we have their feedback.
Oh yeah.
And obviously, for it to be anonymous, but that could give us a little additional perspective and context for areas that we can focus on. If it's, you know, community writ large, we have functions through that, whether it's going down to Washington, D.C. or dealing with the municipal governments. But if it is the community at the college, You do a very good job of encouraging us to be involved. I know that capacity has been limited over the past year, but once that limitation gets removed, I think it's incumbent upon us to coordinate, each of us being proactive.
Okay,
And
great. That's right.
one final point is if it's also engagement at the personnel level, to be able to have an open line of communication, that it's understood that we can have an open line of communication, whether it's the vice presidents or administration, where questions may come up, whether it's potential policies or areas of concern that the board has.
Yeah, and I think that was one reason why we made this change, to have the VPs or the president's cabinet at the table with us, and to have them each speak too, so that there was a real sense of interaction rather than just the separation. And I think also the college forum. We were supposed to have a college forum December 2nd, but no one signed up. And so we didn't have it. But that doesn't mean we're going to do away with it. It's there for people to be able to contact the board with their problems or their thoughts or whatever have you. So I agree with you, Dale. I think that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we expand, and there's an accessibility. Yeah, thank you. Other situations that you feel the board should be thinking about as far as we going into this next year? I mean, as Carla was saying, obviously we have to wait for our new president to get things all arranged, but I think we can start thinking about it.
I find Kate's report sent via email to be very helpful and interesting, actually, the update, and hopefully the next president, we can encourage the next president to do the same thing.
Dan, one of the things that I'm so glad you brought that up, because one of the way in which Kate structures that is the expectations that we asked of her at the beginning of her presidency. We had laid those out, and she said, why don't I respond to the college using these as the basis? And of course, we expanded it with COVID and whatnot. Do you think as a board, this would be a good way for us to approach the new president, to say, okay, what the expectations, whatever they are that we come up with as a board, these are what we'd like you to address in your biweekly letter to us?
Absolutely, because of those reports, I found while meeting people from other colleges that we were, or seemed to be, one of the few colleges that were up to date with whatever was going on. Mm-hmm. Other places, it was a report maybe from the president every 6 months or whatever. But we got, starting with Dr. Kress when we asked her, and she did it. And it was very useful. You don't want to be blindsided when you are somewhere and something is going on in the college and you have no idea what's going on. Yeah. So I find those reports and I read them, I mean, line by line, and I learn a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think they're very helpful. Do you feel that we're doing them often enough? Do you think that the way Kate is doing this, that it seems like enough?
Well, before it was done bi-weekly, but if something came up that it was of importance,
yeah,
then there was a special report.
Right.
Such as when we had some, unfortunate situation with some of the students, and we needed to find out before we saw that on television or, the print media. There has been situations where we were in the middle. Sometimes we got like 2 or 3 very short reports with something that we should know. So biweekly, I don't see a problem, but if something comes up that we should know, I think that, you know, it merits another short report.
Sure, sure. That's, I think that sounds reasonable to all of you. I mean, that sounds like a good way to handle it. Good. So what I will do is I'm going to send you all the expectations that we had come up with and that we had all done for that Kate had. And what I'd like you to do is take a look at those and see where the language has to be tightened up, what additional expectations we have. My feeling is that we should keep them more general and then have the president make them more specific as we work with the person. So we can talk about that too. But I'll send those out to you pretty soon. I'm going to leave myself a note. And we can start working on that. Backing up just a little bit, do any of you have experience doing surveys?
What kind of surveys?
Like the survey, I'm going back to the survey that we did for the board, and thinking about what Dale said. What we'd like to do is then expand that survey or have a different survey actually for the college community on talking about the board. So we'll want to develop that, and we can develop that ourselves partially. We can work with someone who does this, Winton, and then I think that would be a really good idea for us to expand out that way.
You may touch base with Suny on that to see if they've had anything in the past.
Excellent.
But I will just, I think warn is too strong a word, but I want everybody to manage expectations on that, because what you'll get a lot of is who are the Board of Trustees? What do they do? We never see them, that sort of thing. That's just, keep that in mind. And that itself may reveal something to us, but.
Right. And I don't think we have to change a lot, but we can also, that's why I want it set up in a way that says, maybe with a preface even, the Board of Trustees is listening at the college forum. These are the things that we do already. Do you feel that that's effective? How would you like it changed? You know, that's a thing, and not just general ideas, but some specific things that we do that we could then say, hey, what do you think about this? And what do you think about the way in which it's handled? Because it's not as if we are sitting someplace and not having any interaction. I mean, we are.
I think the challenge, Barbara, is the mechanism to do the survey and then analyze the results, right?
Right, exactly.
So, like we've done some different like reviews that way in my agency.
Right.
And I think if we were to give them this survey, I mean, it would be, you'd get 200 maybe, or, 50. I don't know how many we'd get back, but I don't know that's very usable versus if we did either, if there's an existing survey like Dan suggested, or if there's some other mechanism to get at like a top 3 items that they feel the board should look at or work on, or I don't know, something like that. We just used at the agency a group called the Thought Exchange. They helped not-for-profits this year take a look at our response to the pandemic, and it was unbelievably useful but it's a kind of a blind, anonymous answer 3 questions, and then everybody gets to rate the answers and agree with the answers or comment on the answers. So then they get this like body of words and body of information that they turned into a report to us.
I see.
I have no idea how that would work in an institution the size of MCC. Like, it worked just fine at legal aid, but
Right.
I mean,
all the people.
yeah, I think, you got to think of the board survey into it. It's really, we have to figure out what the purpose is. I mean, if it's a self-assessment, then it's a self-assessment, right? We've set the expectations and then decide if we followed them. If you want to put a little more teeth in it, on another board I sit on, we actually rate ourselves and say, this is what I committed to do. This is what I actually did.
Oh, well, that's really interesting. Yes.
Yeah. Which is a different issue than what does the college community think of the Board of Trustees, or do they actually understand our role? Which is a different, that opens up to what kind of training we might need to do in terms of what our role is too.
Yes.
But a true self-assessment that says, here's my personal goals as a board member, as a trustee for the year, and here's what I did, can be interesting, and it could run the gamut of, I've attended all the meetings, I was prepared, I volunteered on XYZ, I donated to the foundation, I, supported whatever, we would set that though.
Oh yeah, right. We would, that's part of it too. And that would be another way that we could begin to understand in a better way what we feel this board can and should be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think now we ought to think about these issues, about evaluation. Because we want to do whatever evaluations we choose to do, we want to make sure that 2 things. First of all, that it will help us. But secondly, we don't want to give ourselves a lot of extra work. We don't want to put ourselves in a situation where, oh, we should do this, oh, we should do that. We want to keep things contained to a certain extent. So what would be the best, I guess, is the question. I'm not asking it right now. This is rhetorical, but as I'd like you to think about it, because this is a path we haven't gone on before. And I think it's very important that we start to think about these, especially with the new president. What do we want to be? What do we want the president to be? All of those things. And so I'm asking you to do some thinking about that, especially since many of you have had experiences with a lot of this stuff, and you've seen what's worked for you and what may work in this situation. Good. Other comments?
Barbara, 2 things. Just want to sort of pick up on some of the points that were made earlier. One is, I think for each and every board member, we should make sure that we understand what the role, the responsibilities, and the functions of the Board of Trustees is. And a lot of that is set out statutorily by Suny. And then, the other thing I'm just thinking about back when we were going through the process of when the college was going through the labor negotiations. Mm-hmm. At that point, a lot of the a lot of people who were fairly active in the bargaining units basically, wanted to, they're in my opinion, they came across as if, if we can't get the president to do what we want, let's go to the Board of Trustees and they can do it. Mm-hmm. So it's, go back to that point again in terms of managing expectations, making sure that not only do we, but also the larger community understands what the role and the function of the board is. The last thing I think we'd want to do is give people the expectation that, look, you go to the Board of Trustees, either individually or collectively, if they have a gripe that can't be solved, that they don't think it's been solved, going directly to the administration. Well, the Board of Trustees can do it, and that's what they should do. They should be able to make either the president or the administration do what we think should be done. So.
Absolutely. And when Kate came in as the interim, she and I sat down and talked about exactly that situation. And I said to her, the Board of Trustees is not the manager here. The president has to manage this. The Board of Trustees does policy and it works at that level. And we work together, but not in each other's area there. And particularly the board and the president. I mean, unless we see that there's a problem, we would handle that, but that would be different. So Alan, I think that that's absolutely true. And I feel that we've moved away from some of those problems during the last 6 months. Do you?
Yes.
Yeah, I really made a concerted effort to do that because I think that was absolutely, totally problematic. And I agree with you. I think we have to make sure that we set up those sorts of expectations in the coming year for the new person. Great. Other thing, Ellen, anything else?
No, that's it.
Anybody else want to say anything? So we have some ways forward here, which we definitely will be looking at, and I think our first priority that is coming up will be the contract. And this was my first contract, and I must admit, I loved doing it. I thought it was so interesting and so exciting. So whether it came out, you will all be judged. You will judge that. I don't think I'm passing contract law this year. So, but it was really, it was very, very, very interesting.
When you think contract law is exciting, whoa.
And it's probably because I don't have to do much of it.
I know.
Barbara, the only thing that I had this thought, I was looking at the comments on the board, and I don't know why I didn't put it down last time, but something that I found helpful in the past with other boards I've had the pleasure to serve on, and we can't do it now, but when we get back to a sort of a sense of normal, I think it'd be nice if every once in a while we got together in a less formal setting, 2 or 3 of us had lunch, had breakfast.
Yeah.
It just fosters a sense of teamwork. And what you want to avoid is something I think like the Grace may have been talking about earlier is you have an MCC meeting on Monday and you've had the stuff for a couple of 3 weeks. Maybe you've looked at it, maybe you haven't. But you put your MCC hat on shortly before the meeting starts and you take it off right after the meeting ends. And that's okay. We're human. We have other things going on in our life, but you're all a great group of people, really nice. And I'd like to get to know you even more than I do. And I think that's one way to think. So something to think about in the future. Wouldn't ask anybody to do anything like that.
Yeah, I think it would be sort of hard sitting around with masks on. So it's not as collegial then, but I totally agree. I think to have a breakfast meeting or what have you, just get together or coffee.
Lunch, not breakfast.
Okay, lunch. Sorry. Oh, Carla, I'm so sorry.
Possibly happy hour. Let's not forget that.
Better.
Yes, happy hour. I will agree to that too. But I do. I think there's a sense of camaraderie and also being able to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I've got this question," and all of that. So thanks, Dan. I agree with you on that. Good. Other comments, other thoughts that you have? No, I really appreciate your spending this time. we have a path forward, and we've seen some of the things that we'd like to do. So it will be an exciting few months at MCC as we negotiate all of this. So off we go. I hope I'll see you all at the board meeting in not too long. You get a break now to do
Yeah, so
whatever.
I'll just mention, it's the same link to get back in. So if
Okay.
you do disconnect, you can use the same link to get back in for the board meeting.
Okay.
Great.
And we just stay on even if we're not in front of the screen.
You can just turn your video off and your sound, Grace, and stay connected. That's fine as well.
Wow.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Thank
We'll see you at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Yeah. See you then. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, there we are. Right. I have gavelled in the meeting and I need to call the roll to make sure that we make sure that people are here. So if you just would indicate that you are here. John Bartolotta.
Here.
Dan DeLoss.
Here.
Barbara Lovenheim, here. Alvin Martinez.
Present.
Carla Palumbo.
Here.
Dale Rakoff.
Present.
Grace Tillingast.
Present.
Alan Williams.
Here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December meeting of the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College. The meeting has been called to order and a quorum has been established. We want to begin with two very happy and positive things. One is that one of our trustees, Benny Martinez, has just won a scholarship for criminal justice. We applaud that. And
Awesome. Congratulations, Benny.
that is just wonderful. We're so proud of you. And as I said to him, we're part of his cheerleading squad. And next is another wonderful congratulations. I'd like to begin the meeting by congratulating Trustee Carla Palumbo for receiving the Rochester Business Journal Icon Award. Yay, Carla.
Oh, great going, Carla.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
The Icon Award, to be eligible for the Icon honors, honorees over the age of, well,
Well, we'll say it's 60. If you're going to be 60, you might as well have something in your name.
You're a baby. You're a
Thank
baby,
you.
Carla.
Thank you. Thank you.
must have a long-standing commitment to the Rochester business community and significant professional accomplishments through innovation and leadership. Honorees must also be champions of their industries and demonstrate a sustained commitment to community service. They may be in the workforce or retired and must hold or have held senior management level positions with significant authority in decision-making for their organizations. Carla will be recognized in a virtual ceremony this evening. So they are wonderful that you're here. Carla, congratulations. This is terrific.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank
We're
you.
also your cheerleaders too.
Thank you. I love that.
We will now move to adopt the consent agenda. Unless objections are raised, the following items are proposed to be adopted and approved by consent. Some of these items address issues which have been discussed by the board in the past and/or are routine operational matters which do not involve new policy decisions. Other consent items are derived from provisions in existing prior approved labor contracts, capital construction programs, or other trustee initiatives. The consent agenda is presented for adoption as a single agenda item. Specific items may be removed by request of any board member for discussion as part of the regular agenda. The remaining items should then be adopted as a single agenda. Board approval of the consent agenda is required. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College adopt the consent agenda effective December 7th, 2020. Trustees, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, John, second.
Second.
And who did the second? I'm sorry.
I'll second it.
Okay, Carla, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? John Bartolotta,
Aye.
Dan DeLoss,
Aye.
Barbara Lovenheim, aye. Alvin Martinez,
Aye.
Carla Palumbo,
Aye.
Dale Rakoff,
Aye.
Grace Tillingast,
Aye.
Alan Williams,
Aye.
opposed. The resolution is approved. Okay, now Trustee Rakoff will now give the Finance and Facilities Committee report. The board will consider these resolutions as a committee of the whole, voting on each in turn.
Thank you, Barbara. And Hezi, I know with the long Thanksgiving vacation, you were able to catch up on a few months. So I know tonight you will be considering both the August, September, and October reports. I didn't know if you wouldn't mind proceeding with your presentation, but perhaps maybe starting with year-end, fiscal year-end, and then where we stand year-to-date. And Hezi, if you want to unmute.
Yeah, I have that difficulty sometimes.
That's okay. Thanks. Thank you.
So you are correct. We will cover the year end, partly because you all will have to approve the annual report to Suny, and that's a part of our year end. But I'll begin with the year end. So next slide, please. What I want to just bring to your attention is the 6 steps to closing the budget gap. As you all know, we've been suffering on what I call a structural deficit. And under the leadership of President Douglas, we established 6 steps to try to figure out a way to solve that problem during the prior year. And we made great progress. At the moment, we are standing at about $12 million achieved. However, there is some minimal risk to this number because of some decisions that we are making, and also because of the revenue side. But for the year end August, this has been booked, and we had $1.6 million of savings from the voluntary separation incentive program, which actually took place in the January-February timeframe. We've had a freeze on for hiring for many months now, and that generated another $3.2 million for us. In step 3, fiscal year 20, I'm taking credit for saving $1.2 million. I think we saved more, but there are only, I'm taking credit for the 1.2 because we actually took steps to generate that. And we're expecting another $1 million in 21 of savings in non-personnel costs. We got a few dollars through a voluntary furlough, thanks to our employees who stepped up. 33 of them stepped up to furlough during the month of July. That gave us a little less than $100,000. And then we had the VPEP, which is the Voluntary Position Elimination Program, in step 5. Actually, 30 of those people were voluntary. The other 17 were directed by the administration. And when we add back a few positions there, plus what I call the bluebirds, those steps generated another $5.3 million. And at this point in time, we do not intend to do or ask for a salary reduction because our task was 12, and now we're sitting at 12.4, plus or minus maybe $500,000. Next slide, please. So how did the year end 20, fiscal year 20, how did we do? Enrollment. The enrollment came in at 9,885 FTEs, reflecting a decrease of 401 from the budget. And that resulted in a budget achievement of about 96%. Tuition reflected a decrease of 3.1 million, and that's tied primarily to the enrollment reduction that we had, and that was an achievement of 94% of our tuition revenues. And total revenues then came in at $114.2 million, or about 97% achievement of the budget. Included in that number is that we did book $500,000 of the $4.9 million in CARES Act funds because we had some expenses that were tied directly to the pandemic, and we wanted to offset that with CARES Act funding. So of the $4.9 million, we did use $500,000 last year. Total expenses then came in at about 96% of budget, or a decline of $5.2 million. And the fund balance then decreased from the budget by some 1.5 million. As you would recall, we had approval from the board to spend roughly $4 million in fund balance, and we didn't spend that much, and you'll see a little bit more about that coming up. Next slide, please. So this, what I just said to you in words, this is the picture here. Enrollment, 10,286 was the budget. We missed it by 401 FTEs, or 3.9%. Tuition was a budget of 47.6 million. We missed that by 3.1 million, or 6.5%. Total revenues was 117.8 million. We missed that by 3.6 million, or 3.1%. And total expenses budgeted to achieve 121.8 million. We came in at 116.6 million, or a decline of 5.2 million, or 4.3%. And that drove the fund balance use from a budgeted 4 to an actual 2.5, or a favorable variance of $1.5 million. And if you go to the next slide, I'll give you some more details on that. So tuition, so this is a chart that's showing how we perform against the budget. And as I said, tuition was down 3.1 million due to enrollment. The other big kicker that we suffered last year was state aid. In June, we took a 20% reduction in state aid, or $1.6 million. And so these were partially offset by $1.1 million in high school dual enrollment fees. And what happened there was this past year, we booked high school dual enrollment as a fee as opposed to tuition, which we've done in the past. And the current year that we're in, we've moved back that number back to tuition. So you'll see a difference as we go along this year. So that's the $3.6 million revenue shortfall compared to budget. Now, how do we offset? Offset part of this was through expenses, primarily in the staffing and fringe benefits area for academic services, student services, and operation and maintenance of plant. However, in addition to benefits and staffing, we also had saving in utilities, maintenance and supplies, travel, and a bunch of other non-personnel expenses. All other came in at 4.7 million unfavorable to budget, and those figures were driven primarily by the VSIP and VPEP action, and then there was another $500,000 of others. So that's how we offset the shortfall to revenues by taking down expenses by $5.1 million, and thus only spent 2.9 of the fund balance that you had approved. Next slide. So that wraps up fiscal year 2020, and you'll have a resolution to that effect. But now I want to then move to year-to-date October. And this is then the beginning of this year. So let's go to the next slide, please. So far, we have in enrollment, we've achieved 3,585 FTEs, aidable FTEs, and that's 94% of our fall semester budget at census. We had a unfavorable variance in full-time enrollment, but part-time is up 2.5% up, and full-time is down 21.2%. And the impact of these changes is shown on the very next slide, please, where we have revenues totaling $24.7 million. And that's a 22% achievement year to date of the budget. But if you look at year-on-year changes, tuition is down 5.4%. And again, that goes back to, again, enrollment. State aid is down 20%. And so we are currently still booking that $1.6 million shortfall on a quarterly basis, because at this point in time, we are still being told that state aid will be delayed as opposed to cut. But I just got off a seminar earlier today with the budget director for the state, and he made it very clear that unless the federal government comes through with some additional support to state governments, this was probably going to be a actual cut. No changes in sponsor aid, same as last year, which is a good thing. And then all other is down some 16.9%, but a significant amount of that is just the fact that we are now reporting high school dual enrollment up in tuition as opposed to others like we did last year. Next slide, please. Expenses, again, we're off to a good start in terms of savings. So expenses are down some $3 million year on year. Of course, a significant amount of that is due to the fact that we had the VSIP and the VPEP action last year, and we paid for most of those last year. We still have some expenses that we will incur this year for those people who are not leaving, frankly, until December. So our salaries year on year is down 14.4% at $11.3 million. Benefits are down 10.3% at $5 million. No spending in equipment so far, and contractual expenses are down some 17.3%, or a total of $18.1 million of expenses on a year-to-date basis. Next slide. The impact of these changes to fund balance is that we are at $18.7 million, and that reflects a year-on-year decrease of $2.6 million, and this is probably the earliest we've had that kind of decline in fund balance so early in the year. But I'm not panicking at this point in time, because I think we'll be fine by the time we get to the end of the year, relative to budget anyhow. Next slide. So what's our key message? It's that wages are down year on year 14.4%. Total benefits are down 10.3% year on year. And we're expecting both wages and benefits to remain favorable on a year-on-year basis for the full year. And that's frankly the support and cooperation we're getting from the college community. So I want to thank everyone who's been making these sacrifices. And of course, as you know, we are basically off campus due to the virus, and that is helping us to reduce our spending somewhat. Now, let me go to my last slide, and this slide is a slide that Trustee Rykoff has been measuring us on, and it's basically taking a look at our revenues per FTE against our costs. And it's my understanding that he won't be happy, and you all won't be happy until these numbers come to zero. And we've made some progress since 2018 and 19. If you ignore the budget for 2021, because the very last column there you'll see is our estimate. So we are estimating this year that net revenue cost per FTE will be only a negative $58 versus the budget of $825. And that's because of what happened this past year. Now, the challenge here is the fact that we are managing costs as much as we can, but until we level off the enrollment, and then the state gets back into the action of providing additional aid, this will be a challenge for us going forward. But we are measuring it. You will see this kind of chart every meeting going forward. That is my last slide. Any questions?
Hezi, the VSIP, the volunteer and those programs that we did, in some ways, those are not going to show up for at least a year, right? Because some of those people are earning salaries for the year.
Well, here's what we did. You're accurate in what you just said. However, we booked most of the VSIP and VPEP expenses last year. That is, what we didn't book was because there are still people that are being paid that are still on the payroll, even though they've taken the VPEP, but their end date is not until December. And for those people, we are still booking those expenses this year. You will see the full impact of those two programs when we put together the budget for 2022, where all of those expenses will have disappeared.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ezzy, I have a couple of questions and really more informational. The high school dual enrollment fee.
Yes.
Who pays that? Is that on the student or is that a school district?
It's all over the map.
Okay.
In the suburban area, those school districts, those are primarily paid for by parents.
Okay.
In the city school district, at least at one point in time, and I'm not so sure it's still the same, those were being paid for by the school district.
And is that, so I'm going to ask an additional follow-up question. That doesn't count toward my initial two, though.
Okay.
So is this what we're talking about? It's just as simple as high school kids taking MCC college credit courses? Is that what we're talking about?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay. So then my second question is, what I've noticed in some of your other slides, there's a different number between actual enrolled FTEs and aidable FTEs, and it's a significant difference. So
yes.
Could you just explain that?
Sure. The actual enrollment is what we book on an annual basis each year. But aidable, the state has a formula, and it's a helpful formula when enrollment is declining. So if your enrollment goes down by 100 FTEs, in year one after that, the state only books 50 of those, 50%. And then the next year they book another quarter and then another quarter. So that's how the state manages the reduction in state aid to a specific college by what they call the aidable FTEs. And as I said, they don't hit you with the total amount of decline in year one. They hit you with 50%. So it takes 3 years to get rid of that specific year total reduction in enrollment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ezzy, if I could, just a few questions. I know a lot of numbers that you've gone through. I know an enormous amount of effort has gone into that. Generally, anytime you see a number that's red, it's associated with pain, and yes, there's a fair amount of sacrifice, somewhat not proportionately applied, but a lot of sacrifice that occurred to get to that. And I think the goal for the trustees is to provide a sustainable glide path where people that come to work at MCC have a high degree of confidence that their role is not in jeopardy. So to get to that point, the projected reduction in the state aid, if that continues, as you indicated, that is not reflected in the budget number, correct?
That is correct.
So in reality, it probably is order magnitude of about 4.8 million less than what's indicated in the budget.
Yes, it's well, actually, it's going to be about 6 million because we are now. They've already kind of showed their hands that this will continue through our last quarter of this current school year, or their first quarter of the state's next year. So it's about 6 million.
Okay, so that's an added delta that hasn't necessarily been accounted for on a going forward basis?
We are accounting for it in our estimate, but not in our budget.
Okay. In the past 4 years, so fiscal years 17, 18, 19, 20, we've typically had a starting point in the fund balance of around 23 million. I think you shared before that the typical progression, just based on the timing of cash flows, that by the end of the year, it's typically around 9 million less than where the fiscal year started. So if we apply that to where we are now, it puts us below 10 million in fund balance. And I don't even want to call it fund balance. I just want to call it keeping the lights on and kind of a solvency ratio. So our threshold had been, if I remember correctly, about 12 million in keeping the lights on fund.
Correct.
And right now we're projected to be, unless you can indicate otherwise, we're projected to be about 3 million below that keeping the lights on number.
Yeah, we will, we ended the year at about 12.1, I believe. My estimate for this year that we are in is that we will use roughly another million. So that'll put us down to at about 11, still above the, below my $12 million target, but above the $10 million kind of number that you don't want to get to.
And is that accounting for the $6 million reduction from the state?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are there still, based on the June briefings, the discussions around right-sizing the headcount?
Are you saying, is that a question?
Yes.
Yes. As a matter of fact, we've asked, we have a process of managing headcount on the basis of the contracts that we have, where we have that program, I call it the 55 and 18. That is, if you're 55 years old and have been at the college 18 years, you can voluntarily take retirement, and you have to make those decisions by the end of January of each year. We've asked employees to, frankly, it generally started in December, but we asked this year for people to, if they're planning on doing it, to let us know as soon as possible. And so I know we've gotten a few of those in already. The other item we have is we look at performance, and if your years in the college is less than 5, then we have the opportunity of not renewing that person. Then the other opportunity would be, frankly, based on any kind of a incentive in addition to the 55 and 18 that we may take. So at this point in time, we are just gathering information based on individuals who might volunteer to take the program. And then we're having a meeting, it's either next week or the week after, with the president's cabinet to look at any information or any thoughts that the officers might have relative to any other action that might be taken. At this point in time, we don't have nothing has come to my attention relative to that. But there are those opportunities, steps that we could take if necessary.
Okay. No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you laying that out. It looks like a pretty thin margin of error at this point, especially if the state were to continue beyond 21 into 22, and we see continued reductions. I'd ask you to be vigilant. And then the final question with regard to the October, I know you and the team took a very hard look at reviewing the contracts. We'll be kind of coming up on a year from that point in another couple months. And I didn't know if you had any specific plans with regard to the contract review?
Not specifically at this point in time. What we have done, we've eliminated several leases that we had. We had the foundation over across the street from us in 1057 East Henrietta Road. We were able to buy ourselves out of that lease as of November 1st. We eliminated the lease on the what we call Building 9A. We did that early in this past year, and we are doing the same thing with Building 19. Those are all on our campus. So we will be rid of all but one lease that we will be left with, and that lease will disappear also once we have the Forward Center up and running, because that's a lease on a building that we have out at Eastman Business Park. We did take a very, as you are quite aware of, we managed to reduce the Civitas contract significantly from an anticipated $265,000 to $102,000 this year. And we are looking at some other contracts that, frankly, I'm asking the various departments to take a look at those contracts that we think we can not renew. But some of it, I shouldn't say all of it, but a number of those contracts are tied to software needs. And it's really, in this time of day, it's kind of hard for us not to continue the software contracts, because it's enabling our remote learning and discussion and teaching that we are now doing.
Thank you very much, Hezi.
As on that 55 and 18 program that you spoke about, are there any additional incentives associated with that?
Yes, you get roughly 75% of your salary, but it's a one-time payout. And you might get some benefits. I just don't know what the benefits are, because at 55, there's not a whole lot of medical things that go with you, but you do get 75% of your salary.
Okay. And then what happens? Do you eliminate that line in the budget?
Well, in today's environment, that's precisely what we've been doing. The president and the cabinet, when we come in and ask for a line, we also ask for what's the offset, what position you're not going to fill if you have to fill this one. So headcount management has been really rigid ever since we got instructions from the board back in, I think it was March or April, of that freeze, and it's a rigorous task.
Okay.
If President Douglas wants to add anything to that, please feel free.
I was wondering how hot that seat was getting, Hezi. No, I think Hezi's represented it well, trustees, that we look carefully at every position. We do know, Trustee Rykoff, that it is a razor thin margin here. We look very closely. We also understand that we can't cut our way out of these challenges. We have to grow our way out of these challenges. And so we're looking at the programs, the new programs that we're adding. We're looking at the expansion of our Suny online participation. We're looking at incentives to encourage faculty to consider high flex teaching this spring. In addition to managing our expenses very tightly, we are looking at how we can grow and how we invest in the future. And we see that as the way through this. Very close management of the expenses and continuing to invest in those aspects of the college that are the future. Because MCC is going to be okay on the other side of this, and it's because we're going to grow those programs that our students want, that our community wants, that our business partners want.
Thank you, President Douglas. Any other questions, discussion from the board? All right, given that, could I have a motion to amend the financial reports as detailed in attachment 1?
So moved.
Thank you, Dan. And a second?
Second.
Take your pick, Linda. Second. Any other discussion? So with a roll call, all those in favor, John Bartolotta. Could you unmute, John? John, can you unmute? Okay.
Jeremy, can you help
I think
trustee
he got
Bartolotta unmute?
disconnected. I think Mr. Bartolotta got disconnected. He said his screen went blank, so I'm going to have him log back in.
Okay. Let me continue, Dr. Carbone.
He's not in attendance.
Okay. Dan DeLoss,
Aye.
Barbara Lovenheim,
Aye.
Benny Martinez,
Aye.
Carla Palumbo,
Aye.
Dale Rakoff, aye. Grace Tillinghast.
Aye.
Alan Williams.
Aye.
That motion carries. Now we'll proceed to the next resolution. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College authorizes the purchase of items over $20,000 as listed for the months of August, September, and October, which you will find in attachment 2. Trustees may have a motion to approve the purchases over $20,000 as detailed in attachment 2.
So move.
Thank you, Grace. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alan. Any discussion or questions?
Dale, I'm back on. I vote aye.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your persistence.
Yeah.
I was hoping that reading lips would count, but Linda shook her head no. So next time, thumbs up. We'll do.
Got it.
So we'll proceed with roll call vote. For all those in favor of the resolution, John Bartolotta,
Aye.
Dan DeLoss,
Aye.
Barbara Lovenheim,
Aye.
Benny Martinez,
Aye.
Carla Palumbo,
Aye.
Dale Rakoff, aye. Grace Tillinghast,
Aye.
and Alan Williams.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Finally, the third resolution, resolved that the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College approves the annual financial report to Suny for the fiscal year ended August 31st, 2020. Trustees may I have a motion to approve the annual financial report to Suny.
So move.
Thank you, Grace. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, Carla. Any discussion or questions? All right, we'll proceed with the roll call then. All in favor, John Bartolotta,
Aye.
Dan DeLoss,
Aye.
Barbara Lovenheim,
Aye.
Benny Martinez,
Aye.
Carla Palumbo,
Aye.
Dale Rakoff, aye. Grace Tillinghast,
Aye.
Alan Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. The resolution carries. And with that, I would ask you to refer to the informational items in attachments 3 to 5. Hezi, are there any additional information or comments that you'd like
Not
to
really.
share?
I just wanted to draw your attention to the capital improvement project, where we have 3 there. They're all in the consultant award stage, and they're moving right along, with the exception of the last one, which is Building 33 remediation and renovation, in that the county is really not releasing funds at this point in time for those projects. And without the county funds, we can't get the state aid. But we are working with the county very aggressively here to try to get them to release the funding for the projects there. But the other 2 are moving right along. One that doesn't show on this document because it's grant funded, and that's the optics lab that's being done on the Brighton campus, and that one is really rocking along, and we have no concerns about having it ready, up and ready, come next year.
Hezi, are there either any grant or contractual deadlines with respect to the remediation building that we would be butting up against?
No, not from a authorization level. The concern, however, is that Edwards has real plans for the center that we are building in the new campus, the Forward Center, and so we have in our own operational process, we have a hard deadline on that, such that it's open and running come first quarter of 22.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps one of the programs could be remediation. Any other questions for Hezi? All right, this concludes the Finance and Facilities Committee report. Thank you.
Thank you,
Madam Chair. Thank you, Hezi.
Thank you, Hezi, and thank you, Trustee Rakoff. Appreciate all the detail very, very much. Trustee Ellen Williams will now give the Personnel and Program Committee report. The board will consider these resolutions as a committee of the whole, voting on each in turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolved, the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College accepts an amendment to the spring 2021 academic calendar to reflect the elimination of winter and spring breaks per guidance by Suny, which you can see in on attachment 6. Trustees, may I have a motion to approve the amended academic calendar as detailed in attachment 6?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Provost Wade, can you just give us some background on what happened here?
Yes, this is based on guidance from Chancellor Malatros. It's not unique to Monroe Community College, but it's been guidance that's been given to all the SUNY campuses. And it's really based on safety and about reducing the risk of students taking potential infection to other communities when they leave on an extended break, or bringing it back from other communities, returning from an extended break. So all the campuses have been asked to reduce those extended breaks or eliminate those extended breaks. The semester's been adjusted so that the semester academic calendar for instruction will end 2 weeks earlier than otherwise scheduled. And this, even though we needed to go through and have you officially approve this, we've given some preliminary information out to students and others of this change pending approval by the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions from board members? Hearing none, all in favor, and I'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Bartolotta?
Aye.
Trustee DeLoss?
Aye.
Chair Lobenheim?
Aye.
Trustee Martinez?
Aye.
Trustee Palumbo?
Aye.
Trustee Rakoff?
Aye.
Trustee Tillinghast?
Aye.
And Alan Williams, aye. Unanimous consent, and the motion is approved. The second, resolve that the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College approves the following certificate, subject to the approval of the State University of New York ESSL program English Proficiency Certificate, which you can find in attachment 7. Trustees, may I have a motion to approve the program certificate as detailed in the attachment?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. And again, I'll ask Provost Wade to just give us the background material on this, please.
Yes, this is based on a very successful, historically successful program for English for speakers of other languages. The challenge of the previous program was that it had a number of credits. So students who really wanted to start or needed to start with that kind of instruction used a good bit of financial aid and therefore didn't have access to it as they continued their education at MCC and beyond. So the faculty in that area has modified the curriculum. Some of the most basic instruction will be moved to a non-credit instruction so that students will not be using financial aid. And they're also looking to put a number of these courses into online modalities. And there's a great deal of interest in Suny Online, potentially in either individual courses or even potentially having this available as a certificate through Suny Online.
Okay. Any questions? Any further questions?
I have a question. Usually for not native speakers, one of the problems is pronunciation and basic composition. That is going to be part of the non-credit program or the program before they get into this program?
It's really by level in terms of English proficiency. So the more basic courses will be non-credit, and the more intermediate and advanced courses will be credit courses. But it will be, I believe, in all those kinds of areas, speaking, listening, writing, throughout the continuum.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
If I could, Trustee Williams, so just to confirm, Dr. Wade, that some will be what would be, I guess, aidable FTE, the more advanced courses, and the preliminary courses would not necessarily count toward the FTE number?
We've actually applied and gotten permission or gotten approval to get some Suny aid for these non-credit basic courses in the Strong Foundations is what we're calling it. So there will be some Suny money that we'll be eligible for to help support that instruction.
Wonderful. I assume we have the existing faculty in place to be able to deliver the program?
Yeah, we have, as I said, excellent faculty, and it's been very successful in terms of student success.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Again, Trustee Bartolotta.
Aye.
Trustee DeLoss.
Aye.
Chair Lobenheim.
Aye.
Trustee Martinez.
Aye.
Trustee Palumbo.
Aye.
Trustee Rakoff.
Aye.
Trustee Tillinghast.
Aye.
And Alan Williams. Aye. Thank you. The next resolution, resolved that the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College approves the following jointly registered program with Rochester General College of Health Careers, subject to the approval of the State University of New York, Nursing Associate of Applied Science, which you can find attachment 8. Before I ask for a motion, Provost Wade, can you give us, again, some background on this program?
Yes, absolutely. Just, I want to make it clear that this program it will not be the degree granting institution. We've been talking with Rochester Regional about their plan to bring up a brand new college, the Rochester General College of Health Careers, for about 1.5 years. And our role in their program is for their students to take their general education courses from MCC, their English courses, their psychology courses, anatomy and physiology, and other such courses. They'll provide us with the list of students. We'll place the students in existing courses. If they get enough students, we can certainly discuss having dedicated courses, but we aren't there yet. And in the end, we will, because I know I'm going to get the question, we will be eligible for FTE of these students, and the tuition will be billed to Rochester General College of Health Careers. This is a little bit out of sequence in that we put together an educational services agreement to offer these courses about 1 year ago. And they put in the application with New York State Ed to have this program approved. And New York State Ed, when they saw our agreement to provide the general education courses, went ahead and jointly registered it. So it's already listed on the index of registered programs. And so we've been working with Suny to try and bridge that gap, because ordinarily before anything would end up there, it would have come before you. I did meet and discuss it with the curriculum committee, met with faculty senate leadership, met with faculty senate last week and brought it there for information. And there are certainly some questions and I would even say some concerns out there, primarily around making sure there's no confusion about our brand, and that our MCC nursing program is distinct from this new program that's being offered at Rochester General College of Health Careers, and that it's clear we're not offering nursing courses there. And the other concern is a little bit longer range. Just there's always a concern about clinical placements that are a limited commodity, and just being very, to me, being a good partner with them to help ensure that our students continue to have access to the clinical placements they need to finish their education.
If I might, Trustee Williams, the work that Provost Wade has done to ensure that this very important relationship with Rochester Regional is maintained in spite of the order that these things have happened has been significant, and working closely with the faculty in order to get us this far has been significant. And I just want to acknowledge and appreciate the work of Provost Wade to make sure that the integrity of the MCC nursing program is maintained, while the partnership with this important partner is also maintained.
Thank you.
And if I could just add briefly that my work on the Common Ground Health Board always reveals a very real need for workforce development in the healthcare profession, particularly nurses. And I think this is a great community effort and partnership effort by the school. So congratulations.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
I'm wondering, is there any similar programs to this, either in this community or outside of Monroe County? I'm just curious.
I can answer that. I went through the entire list of index of registered programs looking for SUNY schools with a similar relationship. Hudson Valley Community College has a very similar relationship with a couple of hospital nursing programs. So we did reach out to them. I reached out to their provost, and I also put the deans and the program chairs in contact with each other so that they could talk to people with similar roles and make sure that the question really was, is there anything we should be particularly worried about or careful about? We didn't get any words of caution from them. I think we still have the concerns that I previously mentioned, but we were able to confirm that it's going very well for Hudson Valley.
Great, thanks. That's good.
Okay. All right. Any other further questions or discussion, concerns? Okay. And hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the Nursing Associates of Applied Science program as detailed in attachment 7?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? And again, I'll do a roll call. Trustee Bartolotta.
Aye.
Trustee DeLoss.
Aye.
Chair Lobenheim.
Aye.
Trustee Martinez.
Aye.
Trustee Palumbo.
Aye.
Trustee Rakoff.
Aye.
Trustee Tillinghast.
Aye.
And Alan Williams, aye. Again, the motion is approved. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, then this concludes the Personnel and Programs Committee report, and I'll turn it back over to Chair Lobenheim.
Thank you so much, Trustee Williams. I really appreciate all the work you did on this. There are some very interesting resolutions we dealt with today, and I would like to continue with that. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of Monroe Community College adopts a memorandum of understanding between Monroe Community College and Monroe Community College Foundation, Inc., to set forth policies and procedures that will contribute to the coordination of their mutual activities, effective December 7th, 2020. And this is in attachment 9. Before we go forward, I'd like to have Gretchen Wood just explain a little bit about what's going on with this resolution.
Sure, thank you, Chair Lovenheim. This is the time for us to update our memorandum of understanding every 5 years. It is the time to do so. It was good timing because we took the opportunity to update my title in the document and also update some language in the asset management portion to just be in keeping with current New York not-for-profit corporation law. So those are really the two edits that were made.
Thank you very much, Gretchen. I appreciate it. Trustees, may I have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between MCC and MCC Foundation as referenced in attachment 9?
So move.
Oh,
Is there a second in there?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Any questions? Okay, all in favor? John Bartolotta?
Aye.
Dan DeLoss?
Aye.
Barbara Lovenheim? Aye. Alvin Martinez?
Aye.
Carla Palumbo?
Aye.
Dale Rakoff?
Aye.
Grace Tillinghast?
aye.
Ellen Williams?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is approved. Thank you very much. And Gretchen, we look forward, as always, to our work with MCC Foundation. Thank you for all you do.
And thank you.
Trustees, unless there is further business to discuss, this concludes the business portion of the meeting. We will now go into the informational portion of the Board of Trustees meeting. I would now like to ask Interim President Douglas to give her report.
Thank you, Chair Lovenheim, and good evening, trustees. I'm sure you've received your newest fact book, and I just want to highlight the fact that in 1920, in the year last academic year, Monroe Community College served over 25,000 students between credit and non-credit, 10,000 roughly in credit and 15,000 in non-credit. That's an astounding accomplishment considering what happened in 20. That 78% of our students come from Monroe County, and that 44% of our students are students of color. So it is in the foreseeable future that we can expect that Monroe Community College will be a majority minority serving institution, something that I think we can be quite proud. I also just want to touch base on how well the college is doing in terms of our COVID management. You know, we are hosting the New York State site, and at one point it was the busiest testing site in New York State. We are also conducting our own surveillance testing on campus. We've done almost 5,000 pool tests and only have had 19 positive cases, which has our positivity rate significantly below Monroe County and New York State and the nation. So the bottom line is that we are achieving our goal of maintaining a safe campus while continuing our teaching and learning operation. We're petitioning the county. We would love to be a rapid testing site. Perhaps our downtown campus parking lot could be a rapid testing site. It would assist a great many individuals, including the college, if we're able to achieve that. So we may call on you for some advocacy in the future on that. But mostly I want to talk about the silver linings within COVID. I know it doesn't feel like we have many, but our institutional research headed by Director William Dixon has dug a little deep into what, as the social scientist in me will say, an unplanned natural experiment. Last spring, over 4,300 MCC students received $3.5 million from the Federal CARES Act funding. And what I can say in a broad brush way is that what we can demonstrate quantifiably is that the students who received those funds persisted, continued their studies at a higher rate than students who did not. And even though we have an incredibly generous foundation and community and award over $1 million of scholarships every year, having $3.5 million in a single semester really gave us the opportunity to look very specifically at who succeeds when we can support them financially. And I'd like to turn this over to Director Dixon. He's got pages of data, and I'm sure he will just give the highlights to underscore for you as you interact with members of our community, business leaders, elected officials, that MCC can quantify the fact that this kind of financial support makes a real difference. Director Dixon, the highlights?
Oh, thank you, President Douglas. And you're exactly right. So this is the largest by far financial aid that we've awarded to the student population in one semester. There's $3.5 million in spring 2020. And I don't know how familiar you are with how that population was identified, but all the students who received the CARES Act funding were Pell recipients beginning of the semester. So they were all at economic disadvantage. And they all had, the majority of them had children. So independent students who received Pell and had children received $1,200. Pell students who were dependent with children, $600, and independent students with children also $600. And there was also a fund set aside for students who did not receive funding automatically, that they could apply for funding. So we had 4 different buckets. So overall, you can see that a little over 4,300 students received the funding. A majority of those students were female students. And again, if you look at how we set up the distribution of the CARES Act funding, it's not really surprising because we were looking for students with children. And usually, if you look at the female population, that's whose reports that. 60% of the students who received the funding was, they were students of color. What President Douglas said before, so right now we are 43% students of color, so it's disproportionately students of color that received the funding. In every case that we looked at, really, we saw a lift in persistence for the students, for the group that received the funding. So overall, that lift is 14.2 percentage points, meaning that those who received the funding, 14% more likely to come back the next semester. That was higher for certain student groups. So if we look at the student group that had children per se, they were 26% more likely to persist the next semester. The bullet number 6, the results were confirmed with Civitas. So this is where a lot of this, we have a lot of interesting results coming out of Civitas and the CARES Act funding right now. Because what we can show is not only did the students who received funding persist at a higher rate than those who did not, they persisted at a higher rate than was predicted at the beginning of the term before COVID-19 happened. So we had prediction scores for the student group before COVID-19, and those who received the funding outperformed that prediction. Now, those who did not receive the funding fell 15, 16 percentage points below the prediction. So that's how we've kind of tied Civitas into this as well. So not only do we know what happened, we know beginning the 3rd week of session what we thought was going to happen and can compare what did happen. We looked at the Rochester City School District. So these are students at MCC that came from us from Rochester City. Again, we showed an 18 percentage lift in persistence for that group. And overall, this really supports the information and a lot of the survey results we have up to this point. So when we survey students about why they didn't come back to the college or why they left MCC, overwhelmingly about 80% of those students say it was something happened in their life, it was finances, they couldn't afford to come back. So we're seeing this with the CARES Act also, of how much we can impact our student persistence with funding to the student group. So President Douglas, I don't know how far you want me to go into the presentation. I can continue going with Civitas if you're interested.
I think that's great, Director Dixon. Because of our investment in Civitas, we had a figure predicting, and the individuals who received funding went well beyond that prediction, whereas those individuals who did not receive the funding were well below that prediction. So the investment in Civitas is certainly something that is helping us understand our student population better than ever. But the details are there for you, and we can certainly take any questions, but I know we are dealing with busy professionals and we still have a lot of information to share this evening. So thank you, Director Dixon. Any questions from the trustees? That concludes my report, Chair Lobenheim.
Thank you very much, Interim President Douglas, and also Director Dixon. These data points are so important for us as we go into the future. And it's also very good that we're using Civitas as well. So we appreciate all the work you're doing on this in this area. I now ask the cabinet members to give their reports, and we will start with Kelvin Gant, Chief Diversity Officer.
Well, thank you, Barbara. Thank you, board, for the opportunity to speak to you all. As you already have in front of you, I provided a summary of some of the things that have taken place thus far this past semester. And so the big thing I want to point out is the 21-day racial equity challenge that we participated in as an institution. And it was sponsored by the United Way of Rochester. So many of you may have had companies that participated as well. At MCC, we had 65 participants, including all of the cabinet. And one of the things that we're looking at doing as a way to continue the conversation, ensure that we don't lose the momentum that was achieved through this 21-day equity challenge, is that we are looking at in the spring doing a book read around one of the textbooks, or not textbooks, but books written by a speaker that was brought in by Hezzy's area. And so we're going to be reading the book From Equity Talk to Equity Walk. And so every person that participated in the 21-day challenge has been given an opportunity to participate in that, as well as anyone else at the college that might be interested. And we are looking at providing some of the book for up to 50 individuals who might want to participate in that. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is the election. And as you know, it continues to be in the news. We can't turn our television on and don't hear something about the election still yet. One of the things I'm proud of us is that through working with PRISM and a lot of faculty members from the college, we were able to put on a lot of programming pre-election to really try to ensure that our students, as well as faculty and staff, understood what they were seeing and some of the information that was being put out there, as our president likes to use fake news. But we wanted to provide actual news to students and help them to understand things from a very different perspective. So again, from the list that you see, we provided an awful lot of pre-election, and now we're doing some post-election conversations so that people can ask questions that they might have. So we don't go into the world assuming that people understand politics from that perspective. And so I do want to thank the faculty members that have been very active in doing that. One of those is on this call with us, Nada from the Faculty Senate, as well as Joe and Lou Andolino from Political Science, as well as, I'm going to refer Karen. I had her name just in my head this second, but
Morris.
Thank you, Karen Morris. And a lot of these programs were put together by Shirley Provost in my area. So I want to thank them all for the great work that they've been doing. And we've had a great amount of success and participation in those talks. So I want to thank them again for all that they've been doing. Again, as you can see, we've had a couple of different talks, as well as a speak out and the National Pronouns Day, which happened on October the 21st. And finally, the Diversity Conference, which took place in October. One of the things, again, I'm happy that we are kind of ahead of the curve in terms of the conversations that are happening nationally. But this is our second full conference where we focus on mental health and wellness in diverse communities. And as you can see, again, from a national standpoint, this is a major conversation that has been taking place. And again, we've been doing conversations and having conferences around that for the last 2 years. So those are some of the primary things that I wanted to point out to you all today and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Andrea Wade, Joe Scanlon.
Thank you, Dr. Gant, for letting us know all the wonderful things you're doing. We appreciate it. Kimberly McKinsey Mabry, Acting Vice President, Student Services.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Lovenheim. So just a couple of highlights that I want to bring to your attention. Just before the Thanksgiving holiday, Dwight, Doing What's Good and Healthy Together, our first year experience staff, Student Life and Leadership, and Phi Theta Kappa students all provided approximately 100 Thanksgiving dinners to MCC students. It was a drive-up service at both our downtown and Brighton campus. In the hard copy update you have, you can see pictures of some of the students and staff involved at both locations. Shortly after the event, our office received communication from MCC's Government and Community Relations Office, letting us know that they're submitting this event for consideration in Suny's 30 Days of Giving blog, a blog that they make available this time of year. So we're really excited, hope to be highlighted in the Suny message, and our many thanks to everyone involved in this event to support our students. I'd also like to highlight Eric Wheeler from our advising services area was selected as a member of the newly formed Suny Veteran and Military Action Council by Suny Chancellor Jim Malatras. So he was nominated by his Suny colleagues and selected to participate in this committee by the Chancellor. The committee will work directly with college leaders, elected officials, state agencies, and others to implement a series of policy shifts that really are to help focus on an increase in access and to improve the educational experience for all current and prospective military students. Our congratulations to Eric and other staff at MCC for supporting our efforts serving our veteran students. This is well-deserved recognition. And finally, just to continue on a COVID update, to encourage students' participation in our weekly pooled testing on campus, the MCC Association, in collaboration with the bookstore, Vice President Simmons' office, and the IT and computing team, began a random selection of drawings for students who test each week. So each week, students can participate in receiving, t-shirts and things like that. The very first 2 weeks, we've been doing the pool testing for a couple of weeks now. The very first 2 weeks, we had over 1,300 students participate. More than 20 students received prizes. All students who participate will be put in a pool for grand prize drawings, multiple grand prize drawings, and those include things like $150 from Amazon, $75 gift card from Grubhub, and $250 from Netflix. So just in a way to encourage our students who are on campus or those who are coming on campus to make sure that they continue our testing. The drawings sure have helped with that. We're pretty positive. So thank you. That concludes our highlights from Student Services.
Oh, it sounds like a wonderful program. I'm glad it's been so successful. Thank you, Dr. McKinsey Mabry.
Thank you.
Todd Oldham, Vice President, Economic and Workforce Development and Career Technical Education.
Good evening. I'd like to just feature a few of the highlights from the September to December report. I'll start off with programming. The division continues to look to adapt existing programs to COVID retraining opportunities, and we have 3 of them that we've highlighted for you there in the report. The first one is reinstituting HVAC Jumpstart program, which is essentially taking the first semester of our AAS degrees and then offering them in an accelerated format with a co-op attached to it. We'll be reinstating that and the February timeframe, as well as a new version of our mechatronics program that essentially does the same thing, but in the field of mechatronics. The other area that we'll be adding a brand new program will be in our investment in expanding IT, particularly Amazon and cloud-based services. We'll be offering a cloud practitioner certification in mid-second quarter or mid-first quarter of next year. The other piece that we're doing is CFO Simmons mentioned about the Ford Center. We are beginning to make investments relative to equipment in that facility. Through Perkins, we will be moving forward with Hvac robot certification carts, and that will become a big piece of a new robotic program that we'll be slowly beginning to build in anticipation of opening the new center. Other areas that we're adapting, we do continue to make headway in the apprenticeship area. We have a pretty strong classical apprenticeship program, but we've made a lot of, the project team has made a lot of inroads in the youth apprenticeship with the secondary education space. So we've been able to do several virtual matching days. We'll continue to do that into early next year, and that has yielded some good results. And then lastly, just a couple of other highlights relative to revenue. We have continued to apply for grants. We anticipate, as the pattern is with a lot of post-recession kind of recoveries within workforce, to have a lot of opportunities for very large Department of Labor grants. This is probably even more heightened with the change in the federal administration that's anticipated. But we just applied for an $8 million competitive Department of Labor grant with our two sister community colleges, FLCC and GCC, as well as partnered with the foundation that went forward with an ask for a planning grant for the Ford Center, which has some other funding in it. So we'll know on those projects sometime probably in very late this year, or by early next year, we will have some information on that. But as I mentioned, we do anticipate going into the first 6 months of next year for there to be many more of those opportunities, and we will do our best to compete for them. The last thing I'd like to highlight was just a real performance issue, positive performance with the America's Promise Grant, which, if you're not familiar with that, is a 4-year grant, about $6 million that we led for the region. We're coming to the end of that project at the end of this year. And we've trained over 1,500 folks in the region with that across the 3 community colleges. But we were selected, there's 23 grantees that were awarded grants in that iteration, which was the very end of the Obama administration. And we were rated one of 3 schools that were selected for on-site visits because of the high level of performance nationally. So I wanna thank the project team, Christina Bakewitz, as well as our project manager, Ann Kuhn, for the work on that project. And we believe that really strongly positions us for some of these other grants that we'll be going for with the Department of Labor in the near future. So that's my report. Thank you.
It sounds like a very exciting time, that's for sure. There are a lot of great things happening, and thank you to you and all of the people who are involved with that. And we appreciate, Dr. Oldham, all the work you do. Thank you. CFO Hezi Simmons.
I have there are 2 items on my list that I want to focus on, but then I have what I call a walk-on because I got it too late. But it's very thrilling. So the thing, the public safety having achieved the CALEA accredited status, that is something that we all need to be very proud of. It's the Department of Public Safety has been working to achieve accredited status through the National Credentialing Authority, known as the Commission on the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. Short CALEA is what we call it. They've been working on this for the past several years. CALEA was formed in 1979 through the joint efforts of law enforcement's major executive associations, including the Internal Association of Chiefs of Police, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, National Sheriff's Association, Police Executive Research Forum. CALEA accreditation programs provide public safety agencies a challenging opportunity to voluntarily meet an established set of professional standards, which require 1, comprehensive and uniform written directives, 2, reports and analyses to make fact-based and informed management decisions, 3, preparedness to address natural or man-made critical incidents, 4, community relationship building and maintenance. And 5, continuous pursuit of excellence through annual reviews and other assessment measures. The Campus Security Accreditation Program, designed for educational campus security / public safety departments, requires proof of compliance with 138 standards. So on November the 12th, Chief Tony Perez and Assistant Chief Kevin Hall attended the CALEA Candidate Agency Final Review Committee meeting. During this remote gathering, CALEA commissioners reviewed the final report on the Department of Public Safety's efforts to prove compliance with the 138 CALEA campus safety standards, asked questions of both Chief Perez and Assistant Chief Hall, and then made a motion to grant accredited status to the agency, which passed unanimously. Currently, there are 10 law enforcement agencies that hold CALEA accredited status in New York State, 8 certified under the law enforcement program, and 2 MCC and New York University under the campus security program. Department of Public Safety at MCC, listen to this, is the first community college nationally to achieve this prestigious honor. My congratulations to that team for the work and the commitment that they took in order to make this a success. My second item is the cybersecurity awareness training. Under the direction of our CIO, Eileen Worthy. This one is in compliance with the MCC Cybersecurity Awareness Training Policy. Employees are required to complete annual training. Technology Services roll out fiscal year 2021 training in October, which is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Results are impressive. 85% of active employees have completed their training within that time frame. And we have a bit of a stick here in that anyone past due on the training has had their MCC password set to expire every 7 days until they have completed the training. So that's why we got 85% so quickly. And then now my walk-on. I was in my office on Friday Thursday, because I had to go in to do some signatures on some documents that required notarization. And in my office was Laurie Scipione. Well, Laurie happens to be the administrative support to our public safety department, and she has been a rock star relative to the pool testing that's going on our campus. But Laurie said to me, she says, "You don't know how much collaboration and support that we are getting from across the campus, and particularly from members of the administrative services team. Managing the pool testing site is a big lift for public safety and health services, but it is an excellent example of collaborative effort involving departments within administrative services." And she listed them: computing and information technology services. She says every time information that is captured at the swipe stations utilized at the testing site needs to be modified, we ask Oleg and we ask David Liana for their support, and it's done like record time. David Liana also compiles all the student population information and sends out thousands of emails each week notifying students when they are to be tested. He then tracks and reports compliance for student services information after each day tests. Don Vogelweed is on point with revising instructional PDFs for the COVID website and other materials to maintain ADA compliance, which is critical. Jamie Gruen and the print shop have created an abundance of signage Even when the request for signage comes in at the very last minute, she always has whatever we need ready to go in time. Communications and Network Services has provided 5 tablets for use at the test site. The individual most responsible is Colin Canfield, and he has reconfigured all of the technology so that assessing the swipe reports and the Suny registration website is as easy as one click. Then we have Colin, Scott Broberg, Dave Truman, Kevin Simmons, and Amy Areola are on speed dial, anywhere, always on call and always making themselves available. Joe Angora, out of facilities, saw a need for designating storage area close to the test site. Joe, Travis Regan, and Jay Larkin identified a storage area, cleaned it out, and rekeyed the room so that supplies do not need to be carted over every day. John Haynes and Building Services are quick to deliver cleaning supplies when running low. And finally, the payroll department always extends grace and mercy to Lori Scipione because they know that the pool testing takes so much time, and therefore they need to help her get her work done relative to the payroll. And the purchasing department, accounts payable, and human resources also go above and beyond to support public safety, and they are just as accommodating because they recognize the time constraints created by the testing site. These departments may not be able to come in and physically assist with the test site directly, but everyone offers support and assistance in whatever way they can, resulting in collaboration that most people would not realize when they think of the pool testing site. I just wanted to, I couldn't believe it. So I wanted to make sure that the board and other members of the college were aware of the collaboration that's taking place for this pool testing process that we are going through on a weekly basis. Thank you.
Well, those are very exciting experiences, and I'm so glad that we live in a community where we help each other. Thank you so much, CFO, Vice President, Administrative Services, Hezekiah Simmons. We appreciate your report. Andrea Wade, Provost, Vice President, Academic Services. We can hear from you.
I wanted to draw your attention to several things on the report from Academic Services. In particular, I wanted you to see the listing of all of the publications and presentations that faculty across the college are giving. In the spring, when things went remote and the world turned upside down, people really kind of pulled in to themselves across the nation and around the world. But there are now opportunities for our faculty to share their expertise, their experience, and their passion. And you can see that it's happening all over the college virtually. And so I want to thank those faculty members for sharing with those within the college and for those outside the college. I also wanted to tell you we actually had to hold back some of the notifications of presentations to the next one-pager because there were so many. The programming in academic services, particularly in the TCC, continues to focus around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And under Calvin's leadership and based on standing on the shoulders of really great work that's been done by faculty and staff and students at the college over a number of years, we did convene a meeting today to have a focused discussion about diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly focusing on teaching and learning. Again, the meeting was just today, but it was so, I think it was so valuable. I wanted to let you know about it. We had about 40 people come together today to discuss where we are now and where we might be going. I want to give a shout out to the Anthropology, History, and Political Science Department, who I believe, if not nearly every full-time faculty member was there. And so their leadership was definitely shown. I want to thank Kimberly Collins and Mike Jacobs. They're helping administer an AAC&U grant that when I was talking about a wish to have a way to help support faculty and staff in thinking about how to expand and think big about diversity, equity, and inclusion in instruction. They thought that they could find a way there to help provide at least some grant support for that. And to let you know, coming out of that, the areas that those participating today identified for further focus were curricular, pedagogical, and really looking at our classroom and institutional practices for barriers to students, particularly those that are inequitable, and that we've done them for so long, we no longer even see them in some cases. And finally, we continue to have great success in Suny Online. I thank those departments. MCC has very successful programs right now. If we don't have the most number of enrolled students, we're certainly one of the top schools in terms of enrolling in Suny Online. We've put some additional programs forward for consideration to add. We have at least one that's kind of on the short list, and so we're very hopeful and will continue to advocate for that program and for our continued strong performance in Suny Online. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wade. It's great to hear about all the academic aspects of what's going on in our college and to see us moving forward in this area. So thank you so much. Gretchen Wood, Vice President, Institutional Advancement and Executive Director, MCC Foundation. We'd like to hear from you.
Thank you, Chair Lovenheim. We all just got to see a wonderful example of the work being done in institutional research by Director Dixon. And I just wanted to add to that by sharing that that analysis of the CARES Act funding and the role that Civitas is playing in that is an example that is being duplicated. Many of the programs that we are offering and the interventions that are being offered are all being evaluated in that way to allow the institution to be able to make decisions based on the return on investment. So I think that is going to add to our efficiency. And I will tell you that institutional compliance and internal audit is also focusing on efficiency. Dolores Pastor-Ziobro is developing an automated process for updating all of our policies, procedures, and protocols. And she has also found a new vendor for our ethics hotline, which will eliminate some of the manual elements, but also is an 80% savings, which I think is particularly important during this time. So we thank her for that work. And then I'll add to the theme of the team members at the institution who are making such a difference during this pandemic, with just mentioning the government and community relations team led by Executive Director Clayton Jones. Their communications during this time have been so important and professional and clear, and we thank them for all of the work that they're doing to help keep our campus safe. And now I'll share some highlights of the foundation's work on behalf of our chair, Sergio Esteban, who's not able to join us tonight. I will let you know that we're a few months into our fiscal year, and so we have a lofty goal once again, despite the pandemic. Next slide, please. I think we can go forward a couple. Yep, that's good. That of $4 million in major gifts, which is in keeping with our performance last year, that we decided that we were going to commit to this ambitious goal despite the current environment, because we know how important it is to our students right now. Next slide, please. We have a number of new scholarship funds to that point. So I'm pleased to share with you that you can see here that the number of scholarship funds that we have available continues to grow. We, at this point, have 274. A scholarship fund can offer more than one scholarship. For example, we know that the Wentworth Family Scholarship has a goal of 100 scholarships a year. Our new ones include 2 new scholarships for our much in demand dental hygiene students. So again, in keeping with the theme of COVID heroes, we know that the dental hygiene students have been instrumental to our pooled testing. We have 2 new scholarships I'm grateful to be able to offer to them. One is from Cornerstone Dental Group that is in memory of an alumna of our program, Dilek Ogut. And one that is from the American Dental Partners Foundation. So we're pleased that with their interest in investing in our students. We also have a new scholarship in honor of Professor Emerita Sumati Duvidit, and that is being funded by one of her grateful former students. So a very grateful alumnus who was interested in recognizing Professor Emerita Duvidit's impact on his life in this way. So we're grateful for that. Also, our Crime Stoppers scholarships have been expanded this year, and we're grateful to be able to offer more scholarships to our first responders. Next slide, please. I'm pleased to share with you that we have a theme for our 23rd Annual Gold Star Gala, thanks to our talented friends at Dixon Schwabel. As always, they presented us with some outstanding concepts, and after much debate, and I think probably in large part owing to the fact that we're all interested in getting out and traveling again, this theme was chosen. It's going to be the Great Circumnavigation and feature cuisines and culture from around the world. We don't know what April will look like, obviously, so please know that we are preparing for both an in-person or a virtual event. But the important thing is we have a great committee, a great group of people that are coming together in support of our students. So in some way, we will have our 23rd Annual Gold Star Gala presented by M&T Bank on Saturday, April 24th. And that concludes my report. And I just want to thank you all on behalf of the entire MCC Foundation Board of Directors for your support of their work.
Gretchen, is it Saturday, April 21st?
It's the 24th. I think that's the wrong date on there.
Okay.
This is an early draft.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a couple other tweaks on here too.
Just wanted to check and make sure. Thank you so much for your VP and director reports today. Appreciate both of those. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will begin the shared governance portion of the meeting. Linda Hall will read the statement listed under the shared governance.
Each of the shared governance leaders will have an opportunity to provide an update of no more than 5 minutes to the Board of Trustees. Speakers will not be able to share their allotted time with others. Student government, Brighton.
Yes, hello, my name is Joshua Ward, and I'm the Vice President for Student Government. I'm here for in place of President DeRubis for today. As of our report, this past week, we have met with the Chancellor Suny, where we discussed some concerns from the students and some questions as well that he was able to help answer for us. The meeting was very informative, and student government appreciates the Chancellor taking the time to meet with us and help us discuss those issues. We have also been discussing student concerns with Benny, the student trustee, who has also been helpful in guiding student government and taking the next steps necessary to gain more information about those issues. Lastly, the student government has formed a committee in order to help the Muslim community at MCC with their prayer room needs. And that will conclude our report.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Student government, downtown campus.
I'm just going to update. We also are in the middle of rewriting the Constitution to combine downtown campus and Brighton together. So we are currently working on that. I also had put together a downtown town hall meeting with students. Unfortunately, it did not go so well with students coming into that. I do have plans to retry to connect with the students at downtown in the future.
Thank you very much for that report, and we hope things go well.
Faculty Senate.
Good afternoon, everyone. As we wrap up this semester, I'm deeply grateful to the faculty and staff of MCC for their diligence and unwavering commitment to our students and to the well-being of the MCC community. I'd like to share with you some of my comments from the All-College Faculty Senate meeting this past Thursday. The fact that we did not have a traditional all-college day in late August this year was indicative of the challenge we found ourselves in at the beginning of this semester. At the end of August, the Senate was working with the Faculty Association as part of the Faculty Resource Committee. And while Senate and the FA are two different organizations with two different charges, our collaborative work took place because there were two simultaneous reviews taking place, as you know. Our task was to review administration's proposals to eliminate positions and its contractual implications, and also to review an extensive reorganization proposal under SCA's purview. So what may have looked like a simple and straightforward process turned out to be a much more complicated review of departments, contractual expectations, and functions. I want to extend my gratitude to Interim President Douglas for her collaborative effort that allowed the FA contract and our shared governance principles to function and operate with the utmost professionalism. We had to say goodbye to many colleagues in August, but we were able to do so on their own terms and with some dignity and respect for their years of service. As you know, a year ago at this time, MCC could best be described as an institution weary of administration's decision-making processes, a working environment cloaked in fear, tension, and distrust, and employee morale was at an all-time low. We were getting ready to say goodbye to a president that did not have our confidence, while recognizing that we still had to work with much of the administration she oversaw and left behind. The future was uncertain, and frankly, we were exhausted. We began the spring semester with signs that we may have turned a corner when Chair Lovenheim reached out to shared governance and the unions and recognized that our institution needed much healing, and she sought our input on college-wide processes as we began our search for an interim president. For my part, I was grateful, but I was also cautious. With the arrival of Dr. Douglas, we began to return to a more respected process of shared input and recognition that while we may not all agree on all decisions, we could count on a mutually respectful conversation that would indeed acknowledge the expertise of all those involved. And then COVID-19 hit. And in March, we were thrown into a vast and inexplicable world of unknowns. And a pandemic is certainly a way to test whether or not our institutional norms will rise to the challenge of serving our students and respecting the work that faculty and staff do, as well as keeping our community safe. Decisions needed to be made quickly, and because we followed those norms, we succeeded in our efforts. And in the spring, the Senate acted fast, approving provisional placements, alternative grading, and serving on college-wide reopening committees and keeping our business moving along remotely. We did all this while preparing for a presidential search and converting all of our processes to remote. I cannot underscore enough how grateful I am to know that so many of my colleagues worked so hard to make these transitions possible. During the summer, the Senate Executive Committee worked on its own transition and continued to work with the administration on the budget and other initiatives. The largest of these initiatives was the reorganization in the fall, and the presidential search, both under SCA's purview. And I would like to thank Becky Babcock and the SCA committee for their enormous amount of dedication and work, and to highlight how 50 years ago, this committee was created to serve as the recommending voice of faculty and staff in administrative affairs. And we're currently in discussion with administration to clarify and streamline SCA's role within Senate. And we look forward to working with HR to provide clear guidelines for how to conduct searches at MCC. Let this recent presidential search serve as a model on how to conduct administrative searches. We can really use this search as an excellent example of how administrative searches should and could be conducted successfully. Co-chairs Barbara Lovenheim and Becky Babcock worked together to form a search committee that was inclusive and representative of our institution. In terms of the reorganization, we were surprised to see how little people really knew about the actual process, but we took the opportunity to clarify and reiterate our role as a recommending body to administration. We recognize the new roles people are in, whether it's administration or contract positions, and we'll continue to work collaboratively to make the process as helpful and effective as possible. As a minority serving institution, I have advocated for the Senate to sponsor events that serve to advance our commitment to our students of color, to anti-racism, and to issues of social justice. And as you heard, we've been co-sponsoring and I've presented at many events on campus, including election-centered panels that highlight the need to uplift and bring to the forefront issues of social justice that directly affect communities of color. So thank you for this shout out, Calvin and Andrea. I want to thank senators that encourage their departments to engage in the hard work of racial bias and anti-racism. We must extend this work into our classrooms. As you all know, I'm also chair of the AHPS department. And while our curriculum is always centered on social and political structures and the need for more equitable representation, it is time for our institution to do the same. The Senate endorsed the Suny statement on the White House executive order that attempted to silence our work. And I want to thank all of you that recognize how our work in higher education protects our students and colleagues of color like myself. I'm grateful to President Douglas and her work in helping us to restore some of the trust we lost under previous leadership. Her leadership has been consistent and much appreciated. I am no stranger to the irony that MCC finds itself in at this time. Much like our political landscape at the national level, we're getting ready to usher in a new president that will have great challenges ahead of them. There's still much left to do, and it matters how we do it. So as we all work to welcome new leadership, it is incumbent upon us to stay engaged, stay focused, and stay vigilant. I'm committed to respecting the process, to working to establish new relationships, and most importantly, to continue to speak truth to power. The Senate is ready to usher in the next chapter here at MCC. So I want to thank the senators, the executive committee, and all my colleagues that work to serve our students and the community. They really do represent the best of MCC. I also want to wish you all a safe and peaceful holiday season and a healthier and safer 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perez-Kane, and we wish you and your family the same.
Administration.
I would just like to add to Dr. Perez-Kane's comments that indeed administration is looking forward to following through on our two agreed upon changes to how SCA functions within MCC. We have a joint committee, 3 members from administration, 3 members representing both Faculty Senate and the Faculty Association. I will charge that group this Friday, and then we hope to begin the process of drafting, reviewing, and ultimately ratifying some changes that we believe we have learned can only serve the best interests of MCC. So we look forward to that. Administration is looking forward to that. That concludes the administration's report.
Thank you, Dr. Douglas.
Okay, and Support Staff Planning Council provided a written report.
Okay, good. Thank you. At this time, we will begin the union update portion of the meeting.
Each of the union leaders will have an opportunity to provide an update of no more than 5 minutes to the Board of Trustees. Speakers will not be able to share their allotted time with others. There are no reports from the union.
Okay, thank you to the unions, and we wish them all a very happy, healthy holiday. I would now like to call your attention to the biographies of our newest employees that can be found in attachment 11 and the staff recognition notes found in attachment 12. Both document the impressive credentials and accomplishments of MCC employees. I know you join me in recognizing them for their contributions to the college. Trustees, this concludes the Board of Trustees meeting. I hope all of you on the Board of Trustees, the MCC community, the Rochester community, have a very safe and healthy holiday season And I look forward to seeing you in a better, healthier 2021. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks, Barb.
Thank you,
Good
Barb.
evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thanks, Kate.
everybody. Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Good night.